Empress Dowager Feng, 442, October 17, 490, was an outstanding cultural reformer of the Northern Wei dynasty during the Northern and Southern dynasties period in China and a pioneer in advocating gender equality in ancient times. She revered Confucius, promoted Confucian education, and continued the Sinicization reforms of Northern Wei, making significant contributions to the dynasty's eventual integration into Chinese civilization. Empress Dowager Feng was born into the royal family of Northern Yan. Her grandfather, Feng Hong, was the last ruler of Northern Yan during the 16 Kingdoms period. In 436, as Northern Wei troops approached the capital, Longqing, Feng Hong abandoned the city and fled to Goguryeo, where he was later killed. Her father, Feng Lang, had earlier surrendered to Northern Wei due to internal turmoil within the Northern Yan royal family. He was appointed governor of Qin and Yong provinces and granted the title of Duke of Liaoxi. However, he was later implicated in a major case and executed. Empress Dowager Feng was born in Chang'an. Shortly after her birth, her father was executed by the Emperor of Northern Wei for committing a crime. According to custom, the young Feng was sent to the palace, where she became a servant performing menial labor. Despite experiencing hardship at a young age due to her family's downfall, she did not resent her fate but endured it silently with resilience. Fortunately, her aunt, consort Feng Jiaoyi, was a favored concubine of Emperor Tuoba Tao and took great care of her. Feng was intelligent and eager to learn, and under her aunt's guidance and education, she not only became well-versed in literature and etiquette but also developed multiple talents and broad knowledge, rivaling that of male scholars. The famous French philosopher René Descartes once said, "Opportunity always favors those who are prepared." In 452, at the age of 12, Empress Dowager Feng was chosen by the 13-year-old Emperor Wenqing, Tuoba Jun, to be his consort. 4 years later, she was fortunate enough to personally cast a golden statue, a tradition required for establishing an empress in the Northern Wei royal family. As a result, she was officially crowned empress. Emperor Wenqing and Empress Feng, who had grown up together in the palace, playing, studying, and writing side by side, were happily united in marriage in February 456, just a month after Empress Dowager Feng was officially crowned. The not yet 2-year-old Tuoba Hong was named crown prince. According to the harsh, when the son is honored, the mother must die rule established by Northern Wei's founding emperor, Tuoba Gui. Any consort whose son was designated as heir had to be put to death. Following this custom, Crown Prince Tuoba Hong's birth mother, Consort Li, was executed. Empress Feng then took on the responsibility of raising the young prince, treating him as her own son. She devoted herself to his care and education with great love and dedication, bringing comfort to Emperor Wenqing. Emperor Wenqing, Tuoba Jun, was intelligent and perceptive from a young age, earning the deep favor of his grandfather, Emperor Taiwu, Tuoba Tao. He often accompanied Emperor Taiwu, and whenever the court faced major political matters, the young imperial grandson was allowed to participate in discussions and decisions. After ascending the throne, Emperor Wenqing rarely waged wars abroad. Instead, he focused on quelling internal court unrest, pacifying the people, and stabilizing the nation. Empress Feng and her husband were able to spend much time together, enjoying a happy and harmonious life, an uncommon period of peace in their era. On June 20, 465, Emperor Wenqing suddenly passed away at the young age of 26. 3 days later, following Northern Wei tradition, his personal garments, belongings, and other imperial items were burned in a ceremonial rite. Court officials and palace concubines gathered at the site to mourn and pay their respects. As the flames rose, the grief-stricken Empress Dowager Feng suddenly let out a wail and threw herself into the fire. The attendants nearby rushed forward and managed to pull her from the flames just in time. She remained unconscious for a long while before finally waking up. Her act of deep sorrow and devotion moved and impressed everyone present, solidifying her esteemed position in the court. The day after Emperor Wenqing's death, the 12-year-old Crown Prince Tuoba Hong ascended the throne as Emperor Xianwen, and Empress Dowager Feng was honored as the Empress Dowager. Initially, the sudden passing of Emperor Wenqing left Empress Dowager Feng with no will to live. However, on the day she threw herself into the fire to follow her husband in death, she was rescued by those around her. At that moment, Tuoba Hong knelt before her, and the senior officials of the court also fell to their knees, pleading with her to take care of herself and to prioritize the empire and its people by supporting the young emperor. Moved by their sincere appeals, especially by Tuoba Hong, whom she had raised as her own and to whom she was deeply attached, Empress Dowager Feng gradually calmed herself. She then resolved to stay and assist the young emperor in governing the empire. Ihan-466 was a Xianbei noble and a powerful court figure in northern Wei during the northern and southern dynasties period. Originally a low-ranking military officer, he gained the favor of Empress Dowager Chang, the wet nurse of Emperor Wenqing, Tuoba Jun. Through her recommendation, Ihan quickly rose through the ranks and was entrusted with significant responsibilities, eventually becoming a senior general and the commander of the imperial guards. Ihan was adept at political maneuvering and had a deceitful nature. Taking advantage of the young emperor's inexperience and inability to rule independently, he swiftly seized power, appointing himself as Grand Commandant and Chancellor, thus gaining full control over the court's military and political affairs. He colluded with the eunuchs serving the young emperor and issued falsified imperial decrees to eliminate high-ranking officials who opposed him, even targeting members of the imperial family. For a time, the entire court was in fear, officials were terrified, and no one knew how to counter his growing dominance. At this time, although Empress Dowager Feng was deep within the palace, she was not unaware of Ihan's rampant and tyrannical actions. However, due to the when the son is honored, the mother must die system established by Northern Wei's founding emperor, Tuoba Gue, which aimed to prevent women from involving themselves in state affairs, the shrewd Empress Dowager Feng dared not act rashly. Instead, she chose to wait for the right moment to act. Prime Minister Ihan paid little attention to the young emperor, who was only 12, or to the 23-year-old and still youthful Empress Dowager Feng. He acted with arrogance towards the orphaned mother and son. However, Tuoba Pai and other high-ranking members of the royal family could no longer tolerate Ihan's behavior and secretly tested Empress Dowager Feng's stance on the prime minister. At this point, the sharp-eyed Empress Dowager Feng realized that she was not alone. Ihan had plunged the court into chaos and accumulated numerous crimes. This was the moment to take action. In 466, Empress Dowager Feng decisively used her position to summon 5 imperial uncles secretly into the palace. With their military strength, she secretly organized a plan to capture Ihan and his followers. With the power of a thunderstrike, she swiftly arrested Ihan and his faction. Then, with the support of the people, she boldly entered the main hall and publicly declared that she had quelled Ihan's rebellion. She immediately issued an edict to execute the traitors and their families. Taking advantage of the situation, she then announced that she would personally oversee the administration, effectively seizing control of the political power of Northern Wei. At just 23 years old, this was the first time Empress Dowager Feng intervened in state affairs, and she decisively shattered the rebellious faction of Prime Minister Ihan, who had plunged the court into chaos and was filled with corruption. Not only did she break the rule established by Northern Wei's founding emperor, Tuoba Gue, which prohibited women from participating in state matters, but she also earned the full support and acclaim of the court officials, who cheered her actions. This also paved the way for her later assumption of direct control over the administration of the state.